In today's video, I'm going to talk about getting forgiveness from people. What made me think about this video, it's been probably about 10 years ago, there was a young man that I actually did a business partnership with. And he had told me his story. He was like, hey, I went through some stuff. And he was wondering why was he having trouble getting his family, friends, people around him to forgive him for what he had done in the past. He was like, I just can't move forward. It's like I can't move forward. And so what I want to do is I want to talk about this video, and I'm going to use two words in this video that most people think about when they hear them, the bad direction. But it's actually two directions with this word. It can mean that you're going into or experiencing two different things. So when you hear the word consequences, you hear the word going through something, what comes to your mind? Most people think negatively, like the consequences of doing something that you did that got you in trouble, or I'm going through something right now. I'm trying to get myself together and I'm going through something right now. But actually, if you think about it, consequences could be good things. Going to work every day, doing the right things in your life, not putting yourself in a bad situation. Those set up good consequences for you. And also, going through things could also mean that you're going through things so you can get to a better place. So with this young man, and I'm going to tell you what ended up happening in the end, which it blew up. This young man, he came to me and he was like, okay, we did this partnership. I invested in him. He was doing the work. I invested the money and kind of managed the business so I could kind of teach him on what to do to make his business successful, because he had been struggling. And so he had told me, okay, he had done some things. And I said, okay, tell me what you've done. I don't want to say the things that he had done, but he ended up spending some time in jail. So I was like, tell me what you've done. And every time that he said something bad, I went like this. And I had a whiteboard in my office. So it wasn't this one here, this expensive one, but I had a whiteboard in my office. I said, I'm going to stand up. You tell me, you sit down over there. You tell me the bad things you've done. Every time he did something bad, I made this line going up. And then I said, tell me the things that you're going through. And then I made this valley going down. And then I said, tell me something else. And then he said, told me something else that he's going through. And I said, tell me something else that you did. And then he, tell me what you're going through. And then he said, tell me something else that you did. And then tell me what you're going through. And so I was like explaining to him that number one, the number one thing that you got to accept when you've done stuff to people is that, and you got to take this to heart. So please listen, is that there is a timeline for each of those individuals on if they forgive you or if they don't. Some people are going to be like this. They're going to forgive you quick. And some people are going to be like this. It's going to take them a little bit of time. Some people are going to take a long time. And some people is going to be never. So it was like, well, with that, then I'm never going to get out of what it was. Nobody's going to ever forgive me. I'm never going to have another chance. And that's what actually makes people go back to doing things bad that get them in trouble again, is because they think about it that way. And so what I said to him is that you cannot run your life trying to get people to forgive you. And he was like, well, what do you mean? I got to get these people to forgive me. I care about them. I want to show them that I've changed. And I said, well, you just gave yourself the answer. And he was like, what do you mean? You said you want to show them that you changed. And I said, well, why don't you show them that you've changed? You can't tell people that you've changed. You can't tell people to accept your apology. That's on their terms. And them accepting that you changed is on their terms. So what you need to focus on is the change. And when you start focusing on the change, you're going to start getting different consequences. Because when you go throughout your day working on the change, becoming the change, That's what you have to do. You have to become that changed person. And you have to work on it. So he was like, well, Steve, I'm not that person yet. I'm getting to that person. I said, well, then that's what I meant when you said you're going through something. What are you going through? You're going through this transformation to be that person. But you can't make it to that transformation to be that person if you don't start doing what that person would be doing every day. That's what makes it hard and difficult for people, because they got it all crisscrossed, mixed up. They said, I'm changing. When I get to that person, I'm going to be changed. No, you have to change to be that person now and start doing the things that that person does, because the change comes from inside of you first. So I told him, I said, you need to change you. When you change you, and that means you, whatever you want to become, however you want to be, how you want people to see you, you have to become that person. And the people will come to you. Right now, they're retracting from you because they don't want to get hurt again. They don't want to go through that stuff again with you. They don't know if you really changed because you've said that you changed in the past and you didn't really change. So you have to actually do the work, and doing the work means you have to become that person. And you cannot wait on them to give you acceptance, because it will come to you. So if you go through your day, so you got to first, what you got to do, first you got to determine. You got to determine who you want to be. Who you want to be. There's people that you can model yourself after, myself as a mentor, whoever you want to be, you can model it, or you can just tell yourself, I want to be this person who does this, and this. And then you start being that person. And you will start, and the way to be that person is to say, okay, what would that person do in the morning? What would that person do throughout the day? What would that person be like? How would that person talk? How would that person dress? All of that. That's how you change. See, most people yak, I'm this, I'm that. That's not change. That's just talking. And that doesn't bear any results. But when you start to become that person, and you start to really identify with that person that you want to be, and you start to do those things, even if it's just little steps each day, and you start to get used to it. It's just like exercising. You start to get used to being that person, and you will start to see that you'll have those changes in your life. So you're going to practice who you want to be on a daily basis. And you have to do it, because you can't go through your life hoping that people are going to accept your apology. You can't go through your life hoping that people will hear you when you say that you changed. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. That's just going to make you get frustrated, and that's going to make them get frustrated, because you're trying to tell them that they should forgive you for the things that you've done in the past. It's not going to work that way. So if you start working hard on who you want to be, and you focus on who you want to be, and you understand that whatever you do, consequences goes both ways. If you do bad things, you're going to suffer consequences in a bad way. If you do good things, you're going to have consequences in a good way. And then the same thing when you say to yourself, I'm going through something doesn't always have to be negative. Going through something can be positive also. Because to be able to change yourself to be who you want to be, you're going to have to go through some things. And those things I just told you, it's like little steps of becoming that person and understanding what that person would have to do on a daily basis, understanding what that person how they would have to act. It could be the education that they get. It could be the way that they treat their family, all of that. You need to put that down on a piece of paper. And then that's who you need to start practicing to be. And then after a while, you'll start to see that you're not practicing anymore. That's who you'll become. So that would be, and it takes work. This is not stuff that you're going to do in one day and change in one day. Just like when you're trying to get people to forgive you, that type of stuff does not happen overnight, and you can't make anybody forgive you. So now, with the information that I gave you, there's something that I always tell people when I consult with them or I coach them, is that I never tell people what to do, and I'm not here to try to convince you to do something. What I'm doing is I'm suggesting that you take this information and you put it into action and you see the results. Now, when I've talked to people and given them the same information, they'll say, well, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know how I'm going to do it. They start building all of these stories about why they can't do something. And I come back to them and I say, well, look at the results look at what you're doing now. This is the easy way for you to make change in your life. Look at what you're doing right now, and then you give yourself a grade, an honest grade. Are the results bearing out from the way that you want them to be? If they're not, then you have to make the change. And you have to stop telling yourself stories about why you can't get somewhere, why you can't be something, whatever that is. Our minds will build up these stories and make up what people call rational lies, which is rational lie. It's a way that we lie to ourselves to not be able to do something. It's a way that we justify why we can't have something or be something or do something, or maybe apologize to somebody, whatever that is. You'll build those stories in your mind, and it'll stop you from being able to move forward. So what you have to do is you have to, number one, write it down on a piece of paper. The easiest way to do it is to say, number one, well, first we'll go back to the beginning. If you've done stuff in your past, you can't make people accept your apology. That's step one. So you need to stop worrying about making them have to accept your apology. The way that people will accept your apology is on their own terms. Some people will do it in a short time. Some people will do it medium. Some people will do it long. And some people will never accept it. And then the other thing is that you can't tell people you apologize to them. You say it, but the way that you really do it is you show them. And that's becoming the person that you know, to the best of your ability and to your best potential of who you want to be. Like, you need to show them, and over time, those people will see that you changed. And then you write down who you want to be. And then you start to do the things that that person would do on a daily basis. And at the beginning, it's going to feel a little bit funny because you're going to be, it's like you're trying to be someone else, but really you're trying to be who you think who you want to be. But it's going to take practice because you're used to being, who you are now. And people change throughout their lives. Some people think, well, I'm faking it, I'm doing something different. Let me tell you, all of us are different in front of different people. We're a different person in front of business associates. We're a different person in front of our family members. We're a different person in front of our friends. We're a different person with people that we see at the store. Would that be like you're a fake person? No, that's how you're reacting to whoever you're coming into contact with. The same thought process is made for who you want to be in your life. Is that you already know how to do this. It's just that you don't do it fully for your own benefit. So you write down on a piece of paper who you want to be. You write down what you believe that person would be doing every day to be that person. That's why it's sometimes good to model somebody. So like if someone wants to be a singer, they're not going to go and do the daily things that a football player would do. You would do the daily things that you think someone who has a singing career would do. So you write those things down on a piece of paper, and then you start to do those things, and you'll start to see that as you do that every day, it's going to get easier. But the other thing is that your own mind, your subconscious mind, and your conscious mind is going to start to bring things into your life that match what you're doing every day. See, right now, all of the bad things that you might have done in the past, You're constantly thinking about that stuff. So you want to apologize to people, but you're thinking about what you did to them. You want people to accept you for who you are, but you're still acting like that same person. Sometimes you don't even realize it. You're still acting like the person who disappointed everybody. So if you start with yourself, who you want to be, and you start doing the things that person would be doing on a daily basis, regardless of what other people try to say to you. You can't live your life when they say things, well, who do you think you're trying to be and all of that? Don't worry about that. Because when you become that person and you have success as that person, you're going to see that they're going to say different things to you. They're going to be saying things like, oh, I knew you could do it. You're smart. We always knew you could change. And you're going to be like, the last time they didn't even act that way. That's because you've really changed. When you really change, people are going to see that you changed. So you write that stuff down on a piece of paper on who you want to be. And yes, you're going to be going through some things, but these things that you're going to be going through is going to be positive. And yes, there's going to be consequences, and those consequences are going to be positive because your thought process is thinking positive rather than negative. So now to close it out on what ended up happening with the person that I told you about at the beginning of this video, is that he did end up disappointing me in the end. So with the business partnership that we had, I found out that he had took all of the money out of the business bank account, and he ended up gambling with the money. He had a gambling problem. So if we go back, when I had talked about at the beginning of the video, and I was asking him, and I said, tell me the things that you've done to people. And then I said, tell me the stuff that you're trying to do to fix it, and tell me the stuff you've done to other people. And I had made this little loop. And every time up here was all of the different things that he had done to people. And I had told him that you had to change to be that person. And I told him that it was going to be hard, but you're going to have to put in the work and actually become that person. But it is actually easier to just stay that person and to actually disappoint people. And when I've said that to people in the past, they were like, no, I don't want to disappoint people. And they wonder, why is it easier for them to do something bad? Because what he did, he emptied all the money out of the business bank account and went down to the casino and spent it all. So that meant that he know that I'm gonna find out. So what would make a person do that after a person helped them? Like I drew this out that I'm drawing out on the board. I drew this out for him. 101, he was in my office. I invested in his business, gave him the money so he could make changes for himself, his family. He had a young son at that time and a wife, and gave him business advice. What would allow him, or what would make him be okay to just say, okay, I'm gonna, on top of all these other disappointments that I shared with Steve, I'm gonna top it all off with a cherry on the top and disappoint him by taking all the money out of the bank account and then going down to the casino and spending all of the money. The reason why he was able to do that is because deep down inside, he didn't want to do the work to change. And that circles back around to when people get frustrated. Because remember, he came to me because he was frustrated about the people who wouldn't forgive him. And the reason why they wouldn't forgive him is because he had went to jail. He had got out of jail, gotten into other trouble, gotten into trouble that I didn't even know about. He just shared a few of the experiences with me. And so he was not, deep down inside, he was not willing to change. And see, even though I did not know him fully, like I only knew what he told me, while we were going through the business, the day-to-day business stuff, those signals were coming out to me that he really didn't change. And rather than trying to get him frustrated and to try to beat him down and to say things that could, get us into something, I would just tell him to just think about what we had talked about on the whiteboard. And like, did you write it down on the paper when I had instructed him to do it? Have he been practicing becoming that person? Because if you don't practice becoming that person, what's going to be the consequences? The consequences are going to be going back to that, either going further back or staying that person that he was, that did all of those other things. And we already know the end of the story is that he ended up staying that person that he already was, because he ended up taking the money out of the bank account and going and spending it all in the casino. And we ended up just dissolving the partnership, and he went along his way. So I hope that this is a good lesson for you on number one, forgiveness, that you can't make people forgive you. You cannot. So don't get frustrated, but don't disregard it either. What you do is you put in the work and let them see that you changed, and then they'll forgive you on their terms. The next thing is consequences go both ways. You do things the right way, you have good consequences. You do things the wrong way, you have bad consequences. But the human mind makes us think, when we hear that word consequences, we usually think negative. You need to understand that you can think, you have the control on how you think, and you can have positive consequences or negative consequences. It's just depending on what you actually do. And then the other thing is going through something. Most people think when they hear the term or the words, I'm going through something, that they always think of that on a negatively also. When it's, don't think about it just on negative. Remember, what I'm trying to get you to do is to understand that you have control over your thoughts. So you could be going through something that's good to be able to get you somewhere. So it's not just, I'm going through something because some bad things happen in your life. So they could go both ways. All right, thank you for your time. Subscribe to the channel, post your questions and comments. This is Stephen A. Williams with Making